At the center of the augmented reality industry lies one company. It's Gravity Jack. And they've been the secret pioneer in the augmented reality and virtual reality space since the early 2000s. Gravity Jack has worked with a plethora of Fortune 500 companies to create the augmented reality experiences you've seen and used today. And after a long wait, they've finally begun their first ever public stock offering. Gravity Jack invites you to join them. They'll continue to be at the center. Find them on startengine.com.
There's two different kinds of barbecue in this world.
What?
There's Texas barbecue.
The good kind.
Texas barbecue.
It is good.
And then there's the kind of barbecue where you throw a little shrimp on the barbie, you know? Nope. That was
actually better. At least it wasn't yeah, man.
Yeah, man.
At least it didn't turn Jamaican.
Hey, y'all. Welcome to Cross Politics on the Fight Laugh Feast Network. Pastor Toby Chuck Knox. I'm the Water Boy. It's good to... we got an Australian mate coming on the show here in a minute, and it's good to...
Stop.
Throw, little kangaroo.
You're ahead. Stop while you're ahead.
And some bear.
Stop it. Hey, are you subscribed to our Cross Politic email list? If you're not, you really should be. Being subscribed to our email list means you won't miss any updates about Cross Politic or the Fight Laugh Feast Network.
We can communicate with you, like
Direct.
No social media filtering.
Direct.
That's right.
Yeah, you'll hear about what's on the schedule for the week, special guests on the show, highlighting old interviews. Y'all know we interviewed Ben Shapiro.
I do.
One time.
I do.
My kids were like, you talked to Ben Shapiro?
That was the last time, too.
Yeah, one time.
Yeah.
Live events, conference updates, Rowdy Christian merch updates from other shows within the Fight Laugh Feast Network. And you'll hear from sponsors of the show as they seek to take dominion for God's kingdom in the business world. To subscribe, simply enter your email address at the bottom of the page at fightlaughfeast.com. So go to fightlaughfeast.com, scroll down. There's a place you can enter your email address. Again, that's fightlaughfeast.com. We're very grateful to have with us today, or this morning, or whatever time it is in Australia, DJ Paine. He's an Australian radio host, podcaster, and photographer. DJ, thanks for joining us on Cross Politic.
Thank you for having me. Good day from down under. It's an absolute honor and pleasure to be with you on this final last podcast that you're doing, because if you've got me, you've definitely scraped the bottom of the barrel and we're going out.
We've ran out of people to interview.
No. How do you know it's not the other way around? You're scraping the barrel, buddy.
I do have to correct Gabe right from the very beginning. That quote that you gave from the legendary, our patron saint of Australia, Paul Hogan, Crocodile Dundee.
Yeah.
We don't call them shrimp in Australia. That ad was purely for you Americans.
Oh.
In Australia and the rest of the world, we call them a prawn.
Oh.
So in here, it was throw another prawn on the Barbie, not a shrimp. We don't know what that is.
That's funny. Well, and that was a quote of a quote, because that was also a Dumb and Dumber quote.
And okay. this show is just
maybe he was right.
I warned you.
No, you might have been right.
Bottom of the barrel. So, DJ, I think COVID is like completely over in America.
Yeah.
I think it's over. But we're hearing terrifying reports that like it might be coming back in Australia. That maybe there's going to be lockdowns. I mean, is that serious?
COVID-2 Electric Boogaloo. We're getting ready for the new release of the thing. No, look, there are medical professionals and politicians who are just itching for it to come back. But I think much like the American people, Australians, the majority of Australians do not want to see this, and I think they have woken up out of their their stupor to go, listen, this wasn't what you said it was, and I don't see it going back to the way it was.
Oh, but, that's good.
Okay.
I'm speaking in faith here, boys. I'm hoping.
Right. Name it and claim it.
So then, DJ,
yeah, exactly.
I guess I wonder. We've been trying to get the tentacles of COVID out of our American government in one way or another. How have they been? How are you guys doing there in Australia with getting it out of yours, or is their tentacles deep set and you're having a hard time?
Oh, it's deep. You think it's bad over there? The different, we should talk about some of the differences between the USA and Australia. I mean, we're the same size as far as land mass. We're give or take a little bit. Like if you took Australia and overlaid it on the top of mainland USA, we're pretty much the same size.
Oh.
A lot of Americans that I know think Australia could fit into Texas.
Well, because you're an island. No, because you're an island.
Yeah, where there's little island. I recommend there's an amazing website that is the true size of. Sorry, it's thetruesize.com, thetruesize.com.
Okay.
And you can take any country on this map and put it on top of another map.
I'm going there right now.
And the true size. So you can take Australia or you can take the USA and drag it on top of wherever you wanted to drag it. And a lot of Americans, when I show them Australia is the same size as USA, they like literally have a heart attack because you're used to seeing this little thing on the bottom of a globe over here.
Right.
And, we're about the same size.
Gabe
we
is distracted.
I'm doing it right
Gabe's
now.
distracted for the rest of the show. Thanks,
He'll
JD.
we've lost him. We've lost him.
It's okay. Keep going. What's going on?
But we are a population of 27 million people compared to your 330 million that you have over there. So in one sense, we're tiny in a population. So we are politically this weird hybrid of the UK, of America, and we are very closely aligned to the USA. The USA is like is like the cool big brother in the room that we just want to go, yes, yeah, whatever you say, mate, we're right there. Whatever you're going to do, we're going to war. Let's go. We're right behind you like that.
Oh, no.
Which is very scary with what's happening in in the Middle East at the moment. But to answer your question, when it's easier to lock down a country like Australia, because even though we have this reputation of the Steve Irwin or the Crocodile Dundee out there, and all Australians love to think that we're out there in the bush, wrestling a crocodile and catching a stingray and away we go. Really, in reality, the vast majority of Australians live in massive urban centres. If you took our biggest city at the moment is Melbourne, down in the state of Victoria.
Yeah.
If you took Melbourne, and if I picked up Melbourne and dropped it in the USA, it would be the third, maybe the second or third biggest city in the USA.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Even if I took Adelaide in South Australia, with about 2 million people, if I picked that up and put it into the USA, it'd be in the top 10.
In terms of landmass? In terms of landmass or population?
Population.
Population. So we have these big urban centres, densely populated, of the majority of Australians. Half of Australians live, within an hour of one of our major cities. And so when the government wants to lock down a population like ours, it's a little bit easier, to be honest with you, than a spread out population like the USA's.
Yeah, we have this. The liberals here like to complain about flyover America, the sort of middle America, but I think that's because we still have even though population centers are on the coasts and are at these major cities, we still have weight to throw around in so-called flyover territory. Yeah. I was thinking of he asked a minute ago. Knox was asking about kind of the tentacles of government, and sort of a lot of us have said, how did the government get this power? How did they get this authority? Kind of because suddenly you found out that these people that you didn't know their names had a major authority over your private lives during COVID. What's it like? I mean, compare and contrast. So you got some of those demographic differences, but what about just legal and political differences? Do you all have the same rights that we do? Do you have similar protections that we do?
Free speech.
What are the differences?
Yeah, no. And again, you've got the the dumbest person you've ever had on the show is myself. So, thank you for doing that. But I can tell you that we don't have a Bill of Rights in Australia. We don't have the way that our government works. Probably the biggest difference in philosophy is that the government bestows us rights as citizens, and it's up to them to administer them. The difference in America, you recognize that Americans have innate rights given by God, not given by the government.
Right.
So if the government gives, the government can take away. Now, in some philosophy and some parts of the Constitution, that might be spoken differently. But when it comes to practicality for us as Australians, it means that I don't know if it's a little bit of the history of the convict population from around the world that has come here. Immigrants that have, come here from all over the place, where we feel like we have to be a little bit obedient to the rules there. But Australia has definitely lost that pioneering Australian spirit that we've been known for the last couple of 100 years. It seems like this new generation, it's been bred out of us. The old Australian way, like the characters that you would see, the Steve Irwin, right. The people like that who would be like, out there having an adventure. It's a little bit lost. It's a little bit lost now. So
it's amazing how simple that principle is. That God gives you rights, not your government.
Oh, it's absolutely essential. And I'm actually kind of confused, DJ, because America is. We were colonies of England, Great Britain, and and I know you alluded to. I know that Australia has a different history, but where did that get lost? Because my understanding is that it goes back to basically English common law, like goes back to King Alfred, goes back to sort of some of the feudal history of Great Britain. But there was a notion that that there's a God and that we're made in His image, and in some way the government is intended to serve God and protecting and serving those rights. How does that get lost?
Well, I think at a very practical level and on a very basic level, we are a post-Christian nation. Even though I hear a lot of Americans complaining about how you guys are moving in the same direction, you probably are. We are what you guys will become probably in about 20 to 30 years. We are the vast majority of Australians. Are not affiliated with any churches, no religion. So it's that philosophical idea that when you take what man has been made for, which is a relationship with God and to serve Him, through family and community and the church, when that is all gone, you see it very closely over here. Government steps in to fill that hole.
That's right.
And very sadly, a lot of Australians really have an attitude of, the government should do something about this. Oh, the government will fix this. Oh, the government, and the government is, everybody's big daddy, big mummy, and so when whether that's a job, I looked for the statistics before I came on and I couldn't find them, but I think Australia has one of the highest ratios of population working for the government in some form or another, whether that's teachers, doctors, public servants, working for politicians or everything like that. It's amazing. So when the government is paying your way everywhere, they have a right to say, stay home, don't do this, and get a needle and do that.
What about about this? So I'm thinking of particularly like maybe First and Second Amendment rights. So freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of religion, and then the right to keep and bear arms. Where are those things stand with you guys?
Yeah. No. You're talking like an American. What's going on? Like, hello. That's all very foreign concepts over here. We do have rights around free and fair speech. We do have some religious freedoms that is getting bandied around in the law. The courts and everything at the moment. There are different cases, around that, but we do also have hate speech laws, and we do have, trials at the moment where, different people are being taken through courts, and whether or not they win or not is not really the point. Much like you're seeing, it's the same tactics used over there. It's this idea of lawfare. We're going to fight you. We don't care whether we win or lose, but you're going to be in the courts for the next 2 years, and it's going to cost you $300,000 that you don't have.
Right.
Those same factors, happen over here. and it's funny. I was just looking at an independent, study that gave freedom of press a ranking, and believe it or not, I mean, this one surprised me. Australia is ranked higher when it comes to freedoms expressed in the press than America. America was ranked at 45. I think Australia was ranked around about 19.
Wow.
So we do have a free press, as in people are able to, get, various opinions if they're willing to look. But the overwhelming majority, of the press is that concept, an old concept that comes out of America where, and as I was saying, church is gone. So the new cathedral is the elite, the media, the celebrities. That is the new cathedral. And so we definitely have a cathedral over here where the experts want to speak into our lives and tell us how we should live. And
I want to know, what can't you say? So what I want to know what they're blaspheming, because this is really interesting. We're having this conversation right now.
Hate speech.
Yeah, hate speech, and
blasphemy.
Everybody's
laws.
talking about whether or not you should have blasphemy laws, and everybody's telling Christians they shouldn't have blasphemy laws. But it sounds like you guys already have some form of blasphemy laws. What can't you say?
Yeah. We definitely have blasphemy laws over there, and I've just been watching the old, Doug Mann himself talking about and debating about the Christian nationalism idea of blasphemy laws. Which is just a complete red herring. But anyway, we won't go down there. At the moment, like all around the world, if you are not willing to, like the meme, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, if you're not willing to kneel when the rainbow people play their music, then you're going to get in trouble. They are the sacred class at the moment, and in all their many different colors and forms. Probably one of the other areas that's very hot over here in Australia is, because we've just had a referendum, like literally in the last couple of weeks, we've had a referendum around what was called over here the Voice to Parliament, which is about our Indigenous / First Nations / Aboriginal people. So there's a lot of laws around that. They want to make race a issue in Australia. And when I say they, I'm talking about this imaginary cathedral again. They really want to bring Australians into a new area where race is an issue that needs to be talked about. Whereas my generation, Generation X here, Gen Xer, we felt like that was dealt with back in the 80s and 90s. Can't we all just get along? We're all Australian. Let's just keep moving forward. But now there's talk of reparations. There's talk of all of these different things over here, it's incredibly foreign and crazy. And we had BLM marches over here when it was happening over there.
Yeah,
and again, that's coming from the universities.
Right.
As it is everywhere, it's coming from the universities up.
Right.
So DJ, COVID obviously messed you guys up in the civic world. And when we were talking on the phone weeks ago now, you mentioned that there's kind of like another COVID coming, but it's not medically related. It's attacking this very issue of free speech, legal issues coming down that you see as needing to find legal protection, stuff like that. What's going on there?
Well, I currently shout out to Vision Christian Radio, the largest Christian radio station here in Australia. We're a national station. And we're one of the big players in the field, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So in our industry, in our sector over here, we've been talking to some law firms, some legal people, because it's not a matter of if we get attacked by the press or if activists decide to take a shot at us. It's a matter of when. It's a matter of when. It's only a matter of time before we're in their sights and they decide to go after the biggest Christian media organization in Australia. And so I would like to think that I'm ready for that. But, in talking to these legal people, it's like, you need to give us almost like a go bag, give us a one sheet go bag, right? Yep. So you've been attacked by the media and your name is now dirt in the news. What do you do? Right. And one of the first things you have to realize, because I've got a lot of friends who've been in this space, is there are members of your family who will never speak to you again because you're worse than Hitler, because you're a Nazi, because you're doing hate speech.
Right.
You've got to be ready for that. You've got to be prepared. Are you willing to do that for the sake of, talking about the gospel and Christ on the airwaves? So there is, I think it's going to ramp up in Australia, and I wish I was wrong. I think it's going to ramp up in Australia where we're going to get activists who are really going out against Christians. The new bad guy in the room is the Christian. There are people in the media, there are university people, there are people from, again, to use the analogy, the cathedral, who are now coming and saying, who the true bad guys are? It's Christians.
Right.
And this holding to a belief that Jesus Christ is the only way. There are politicians out there, and you've got it in America as well. I'll never forget that, Bernie Sanders interview where he said, are you telling me as a Jew that the only way to heaven is through repenting and, and believing in Jesus Christ? And they said, yes. And they said, that's anti-Semitic. And so that type of belief, that type of undercurrent is coming up more and more with the younger university, age group people coming through. But I'm a little bit of a rose-colored glasses guy. I do tend to be an optimist, a pragmatic optimist, and I do think the younger generation, as we're seeing around the world, I just read a report out of the States where I think it was out of Washington, D.C., the Democrats were really worried because out of the Zoomer generation, 20 and younger, if asked if they could vote, who they would vote for, and it was overwhelming, they were saying they would vote for Trump. And, and I think the younger generation is seeing through a lot of the rubbish that we can't navigate our way through it. So that's at least my hope.
Do you own a business and write a lot of proposals? If so, you should check out smartpricingtable.com. Smartpricingtable.com cuts down on the back and forth, incorporates powerful upsells, and allows you to create proposals at lightning speed. When your prospect is ready, they can e-sign and you're off to the races. Download the free guide, The Profitable Proposal Blueprint, at smartpricingtable.com.
All right. I just have to know, I have so many questions, DJ, and I'm intrigued. What's education like? Can you educate your own kids? Is it federal education? How does that work there?
Yeah, that is another. There's a front of legal attack happening. Not as bad as what it is in Europe. In some states in Europe, in Germany, we know that it's completely illegal to homeschool your children.
Right.
It is still legal to homeschool your children here, and there is a thriving, growing homeschool movement in Australia. A lot of people who are on the forefront of that are Christians. And so far, though, there's very public voices within the education area, the governmental education area, where they're being talked about as if, these crazy backward, Christians who are wicked and evil are trying to homeschool their kids. They're not going to get a good education. And they're not going to. There's definitely talk around that. You'll see an article pop up like that every now and then. But there is a homeschool thing. But the vast majority of children in Australia are state educated, and that's probably, if we actually look at the root cause of that, and I'm talking about even personally from my own life. I don't want to stand here and be pious about it when my own children, were state educated. The need for that is basically the cost of living is so prohibitive.
Wow.
And the cost of housing, the cost of, rent and everything like that. So it now dictates, the place where you have to have both partners, both husband and wife working or people in the household working. And that sort of takes away the ability to even, when my wife and I talked about homeschooling, we both looked at it, the bank balance, and said, how in the world can we afford to do this? Yeah. So that's a very a practical element of it is financially, it's very prohibitive for most people.
Marxism is aimed at doing that very thing.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the goal of it, is to so create a an economic context in which family is broken down, and the state has to provide those things. So that's part of the challenge in all of that. That's just nuts to be in that situation.
So then I know we gotta let you go here in a second, but what about churches? What is the state of the church there?
Oh boy, now you're really going to get me canceled.
90 seconds.
Listen, look, we are the state of the church over here. There are some new, younger voices who are standing up, and I really do. I've got dear brothers and sisters on all sides of the fence here, and all denominations. And what I do here as a unifying voice, for Christ on this radio station, and I believe God's given me a platform, for that. I want to encourage churches in Australia to put Christ first and to be obedient to Him first, because the overwhelming majority, by far the overwhelming majority of churches, when the government came and said, shut the doors, lock down. Look, it's okay to do it for a month or 2 months while you're worried about a pandemic. But once we realize what is going on, and once you realize the negative effect it's having on your congregation and your community, I think we've got to be a little bit bold to be able to stand up. But again, talking to some ministers, some friends of mine, they were worried because some of their funding for their programs come from, you guessed it, the government. So if we opened up this ministry, or if we did this, or if we did that, we're worried that the government will come and take away our funding, or lock us up, or charge us with this or charge us with that. So there was a handful of churches, and I don't want to make out that the churches who locked down were all bad or anything like that, but we're seeing the repercussions now. My dear friends and brothers and sisters who were involved in churches who did this lockdown business in the last couple of years are now saying, oh my goodness, we can't get millennials back in the church. And I was like, I warned you. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but you can call me a conspiracy therapist here. I told you, if you lock down this generation and they get used to watching you on YouTube or TikTok or wherever they're going to watch you, you're not going to get them back in the church. Why would they come back? Right. Why would they come back? And that's what we're facing here. There's a generation or two of, and we're not talking about the same effects that you have over there, like young people who have, been masked up in school or working from home, and especially down in Victoria. Shout out down to Victoria. I was down there. It was the place that had the longest lockdowns in the world. Wow. And, the repercussions we have of the children who came up through that time, it's like we've got a whole new level of, autistic class of these little guys who are coming up now, because they can't read facial expressions. They don't know how to talk to each other. They don't know how to socialize. Not all of them, but it's having a heavy effect on this next generation that we're going to see for years to come.
Wow. Well, I mean, that's horrific to hear. At the same time, I guess I want to say, I think hearing somebody like you and your voice and the platform that God has given you is very encouraging.
Absolutely.
And I've got to believe that God is starting something there in Australia. Yep. I believe that, again, with the COVID lockdowns, a lot of people, went through it, maybe blinded, naive, or whatever. But I think a lot of people also are starting to wake up, and they're saying, yes, let's not do that again. We cannot do that again. And I think that's really encouraging.
DJ, where can people down or listen to your podcast, listen to your show live? Where can people go to check you out?
Look, I just search for DJ Paine, Paine, Paine with an E on the end is my last name, all one word. If you just do a Google search for that, I'll pop up somewhere. I'm on all the social medias. Weapon of choice is Twitter. Sorry, take that back. Weapon of choice is X. Yeah. X. All right. So you can find me over there. I'll throw some links up over there. And to your point there, I believe that the best is yet ahead. Yeah. I believe that there is young people who are coming up, and people with voices who are going to be calling Australia to to Christ, to repentance, and to actually break through. I think the only answer for the problems that we've seen, and to finish it off, one of the hopes, and I put a positive spin on this. We had a referendum about the voice to Parliament, and it was overwhelmingly shot down by the Australians, by all Australian people. Australians said, no, we don't want to have two classes of people in Australia, one rule for Indigenous and one rule for us. I went to all of my Indigenous friends, my mates, pastors, lay people, and said, which way do I vote? Tell me what to do here. And by far, all of them said, vote no, because we don't trust the government. And so I think in that result, I think Australia is ready for a new voice to come forward and say, this is the way for reconciliation. This is the way, for the future. And I'm hoping and believing that the only real voice for that is the church, is, people empowered by Christ to say, you want to talk about reconciliation? We are the people of reconciliation. Let's bring it together here. So
amen.
That's my hope and belief.
Amen.
Sound like a Christian Prince to me. All right. So if you're single, get married. If you're married, have you some kids. And if you have kids, go baptize them. Until next time, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Go fight, laugh, and feast. This is Cross Politique.
It is the duty of the free man to resist tyranny at every turn. Every man will either watch his freedom stripped away or take action to protect what he loves. Introducing the A3, the newest revolutionary body armor from Armored Republic. The A3 is the new standard for lightweight multi-hit body armor. A3 plates are incredibly light at 4.6 pounds. The patented design captures fragmentation while remaining multi-hit capable. The A3 will stop up to M80 ball, yet comes in at only 0.7 inches thick. The A3 is the thinnest NIJ .06 compliant or certified composite standalone plate that includes the drop test. The A3 is the first of its kind, patent pending, that combines an alloy strike face with polyethylene backing, revolutionizing body armor technology by providing strength and durability while remaining sleek and maneuverable. The A3 is the new standard in lightweight body armor. The fight against tyranny just got stronger.